be at range, shoot from 10,000 yards away, and dodge all of the mechanics. That's what marksmanship does. The end. Wait, no, there are talents and gears and rotation things to keep in mind, and that's what we're gonna be talking about today, actually, because this is supposed to be a full video giving you information about things. And, you know, that's what we do, and that's what we're good at. So here it is. But first, if you like the type of content and my hair, consider becoming a Patreon, because the Patreons are definitely directly supporting this content and have requested it for some while. And here we are doing it because we care. And we're really super grateful and humbled for all of your guys' support. This is amazing. Thank you so much. And if you want to see more of these videos in the future, maybe different specs, maybe different classes, maybe different content altogether, consider becoming a Patreon. You'll have access to unique Patreon things and goodies. Plus, you'll be directly in our Patreon group on Discord, where we talk different things and hear suggestions and listen to feedback and discuss with you guys directly what we do here on MarcelianOnline. Thank you. Now let's talk about marksmanship. In terms of talents, we won't go into all of the little individual points that you need to spend. First of all of the builds that we are going to be talking about today will be linked down in the description. So make sure you check that out and simply import them into your game. You don't really have to put the points in, but there are a couple of things that you need to be aware of when it comes to building your single target, first of all, because that's what we're talking about. Or the capsules that you want to go for are Windrunner's Guidance, giving you a chance at 6 extra seconds of true shot per proc. And you want that since true shot reduces the cooldown of your aim shot and rapid fire by 70% and makes them cast faster, on top of, helping you generate 50% extra focus while it is active. Unerring Vision is the other capstone you want to spec into, which is also connected to True Shot. You'll see a pattern here, granting you stacking crit chance and crit damage while True Shot is active, so the talents work pretty nicely together. Lock and Load, my personal favorite, is a pretty good way to go as well, granting you a free instant aim shot while it procs, and in the rhythm grants you 12% haste for 6 seconds every time you finish casting rapid fire. And moving into the AoE side of things, whether it is raids or dungeons, for your AoE needs, make sure to go into the left side of the talent tree, where the talents synergize well with each other to boost your main spells into hitting more targets for more damage, because that's how AoE works. Multi-shot will proc trick shots, making your aim shot and rapid fire spells hit up to 5 extra targets for extra damage, and each extra target you hit with this will stack up your bullet storm, increasing the damage of multi-shot, which started the whole thing, by the way. And don't forget about Salvo, giving your multi-shot or volley the explosive shot effect on 2 targets hit, and volley itself will also give you the trick shots for its duration. Basically, all of these talents here work together into buffing each other and giving you nice big damn, because that's all that matters. But hey, listen, you also have general class talent trees, which are usually these. Post Haste is a much beloved and all-around useful talent that gives you speed and freedom from movement impairing effects when you disengage. Situational useful talents to swap around, especially for M+, can be the Tranquilizing Shot, because it does remove a magical and enrage effect, and it can even be improved with improved Trank Shot to also give you focus when you successfully dispel things. Improved Traps and Binding Shot also gives you the nice utility niche that you want when you go into a group of dungeon keyer pushers to help around with crowd controlling things. The capsules that you will usually go for in terms of raw DPS will be Poison Injection and Death Chakram, while also throwing points into Serrated Shots, and also don't forget Explosive Shot for all of the AoE needs. What stats are the best stats? The best stats are the ones that you sim from raidboss.com, because those are the best stats that the best stats can give you. And we also have a video on it, 2 videos on it actually, that will give you all of the information that you need to be able to sim your character, whether it is for stats, enchants, consumables, even gear. All of the information that you need will be there. The links to our videos will be down in the description as well. However, if you're a lazy gamer, here is a ranking of your stats based on their priority as to what you probably will be interested in. It's a pretty safe way to approach stats and your gear by following this priority, aka haste, critical strike, mastery, and versatility. But also keep in mind that these kind of bounce off of each other, so sometimes if you have way too much haste and crit, you're probably better off getting a little bit of mastery. But then again, if you're not really into all that simming and all that jazz, just follow this priority and you will be Gucci. Moving on to enchants, there are quite a few that you would hopefully get on your character before doing any group content. For your weapon, get high-intensity thermal scanner and completely safe rockets. They're completely safe. For the chest, take waking stats. Pretty standard for any chest enchant. The legs will get the fierce armor kit, while the cloak will have graceful avoidance. And similarly, bracers will have devotion of avoidance because you want to stack that avoidance since it is one of the best defensive stats at reducing that AoE incoming damage that you have, mostly from raids, but it can happen in dungeons as well. The belt will have the Shadow Belt clasp, kind of the only real belt enchant that matters. Extra stamina is always good stamina. Hunters are not very tanky, by the way. And speaking of stamina, the boots will have the Watcher's Loam for more stamina. But babe, you can swap this around if the stamina is not really a concern for you. And last but not least, your rings will get the Devotion of Haste, since we've determined that haste is the best secondary stat, so it will only make sense to put it on the rings. And although not really enchants, they kind of still go into your gear as permanent additions to the specific item that you apply them to. Gems in sockets, if you have sockets. First of all, the Fierce Illimited Diamond will be your first gem that you will get, because you can only get one of them anyway, and it is the only gem that gives you primary stat and haste. And all of the other sockets can be filled with crafty Ephemerald, which gives you a lot of haste and some critical strike. As for the food, the feast is usually what you will be getting, especially if you're a raider, since usually everybody just uses feasts in raids because they give you main stat. But hey, if you don't have feasts, or if they're too expensive, you can eat fortune cookies or deviously deviled eggs. Deviled eggs, deviled, I like to say deviled, man, sounds just well. It also gives you main stat as well. Ideally, the eggs are probably better since the fortune cookies cannot be eaten again in Mythic Plus dungeons since they generate loot, and that's not something that Mythic Plus allows. You cannot get loot in Mythic Plus, come on, what are you talking about? Your ideal file to use is the file of Tepid Versatility, because versatility is just an all-around good stat in both defensive and offensive and healing received and all of that stuff. And the potion will of course be the Elemental Potion of Ultimate Power. Moving into the gear side of things, we will start with embellishments, since crafted gear is a bigger part of your gearing system than it ever was before. Shadow Flame Tempered Armor Patch are your two best embellishments to get on your crafted armor. Avoid crafting the cloak as one of your first items perhaps, since you might get lucky and loot the Voice of the Silent Star from Sarkrath if you raid. Lucky they say. But ideally you will also want to craft these on non-tier slots because, you know, that's where the tier goes, and you cannot transform a crafted gear with embellishment into a tier item. That doesn't make sense. Your ideal weapon is going to be a crafted weapon with a 447 eye level plus, because it gives you the chance of choosing your secondary stats, and you dodge having versatility on your weapons. And you can get the old Smoky from engineering or the Bow of the Dragon Hunters from leatherworking. As for the trinkets, there are a lot of good options, and unless you're willing to sim it, you can still opt to go for an Ominous Chromatic Essence, which is the Forgotten Experiments drop. It requires 2 allies with it to be best in slot, by the way, since it does function off of each other's and other people using it. Dragonfire Bomb Dispenser is another alternative that doesn't really have that restriction, and Hardened Loaded Die that drops from Freehold is also really good. Probably easier to get, but you know, we all know those 50 freeholds that we all farm and never get the trinket. Definitely not me. Moving into the tier sets, not much to talk about here. Your tier set will passively increase the damage that you do, and your rotation and priority systems will probably remain unchanged no matter what, so you don't really need to worry about it, just equip it and enjoy the damage. In terms of the actual rotation in single target, you will want to pre-cast about 2 seconds before the pull a steady shot, and then follow it up with another steady shot to activate your steady focus bonus. Then you'll start using your cooldowns. Death Chakram first, pop your trinkets, activate your true shot, and then you start casting 2 back-to-back aim shots, and then a rapid fire, and then cast an aim shot again, and you will continue with the normal priority rotation afterwards. And speaking of, in terms of your actual priority in single target, the most important thing to do is to use your steady shot to maintain your steady focus bonus up all of the time. This is the most important thing in terms of single target priority, and followed by casting aim shot to never reach 2 charges of it because it is a major DPS loss. And then you'll of course want to cast Death Chakram on cooldown, Kill Shot on cooldown whenever it becomes available, even during your True Shot window. And speaking of your True Shot being your main cooldown, you also want to cast as soon as it becomes available. Following all of these, you still want to cast Aim Shot next in terms of your priority rotation, with the caveat that you always want to cast it after consuming your precise shots with arcane shots. But until you get to that part, rapid fire is also ideal to be used on cooldown. You never really want to cap it. And then make sure you cast your arcane shots to spend your precise shots before going into all the big abilities. And as a filler, as always, use steady shots to just cast it when moving or whenever you need a filler. When opening in AoE or in dungeons or anything like that, you do have to keep in mind that the best way to do it, pretty much everybody does it, is to macro your salvo ability with your volley ability. You don't really have to, you can still press them both at the same time, but it does provide with a big quality of life change. And you will start to open with a precasted steady shot about 2 seconds before the pull, if there is a pull in AoE, and then you follow it up with an explosive shot, death chakram, and then the volley with the salvo of course, and you activate true shot right after, casting 2 back-to-back aim shots and then continuing with your normal AoE priority rotation. And the most important thing to cast in AoE is your kill shot to spend your Razor Fragment procs. Use Explosive Shot and Death Chakram and Volley once again on cooldown in this order, with a caveat of making sure that you put Salvo into your Volley macro or cast them at the same time, since they don't share the global cooldown. And True Shot afterwards as your big DPS cooldown. And you follow this up with Aim Shot, of course always with the Trick Shots buff active, because it does need to cleave to deal actual AoE damage, and Rapid Fire also with the Trick Shots up, since I explained it already, and Multi-Shot to actually apply the Trick Shots that we mentioned before, and also to consume your precise shots before ideally casting any of the aim shots or rapid fires that we discussed. And as a filler, similar to single target, steady shot is the go-to. A couple of tips to remember to kind of give you a better grasp on your rotation, some good habits to build. The rotation revolves around managing your focus really well and casting aim shots, kill shots, and rapid fire as your main sources of damage. You generate your focus with steady shot mainly, and you spend it on your big spenders that we just mentioned. Any excess focus can be spent on arcane shots, especially when you have precise shots up, but never ever let your aim shot reach 2 charges. That is the main way to lose damage when playing marksmanship. And when it comes to AoE, replace arcane shot with multi-shot, and make sure your trick shots are proc from it on 3 or more targets before casting your aim shot and rapid fire, because that's what makes them cleave onto multiple targets. And during your rotation, especially when playing with the Death Blow talent, remember that you will get procs of kill shot that you want to consume as soon as they become available, since that's just a lot of damage. Marksmanship hunters almost never use spets, actually never reuse spets, with the one exception where you want Bloodlust, because nobody else can provide it to your group. It's still better than using drums. So what you want to do is you summon the pet before the fight, press your Bloodlust, dismiss the pet after the fight, and then continue petless, the lone wolf style. And all of this should give you everything that you need for marksmanship to start blasting in dungeons and raids right away. A quick shout out to the True Shot Discord community for having all of the hunter information that you will ever need to do really good on hunters, whether it is pushing keys or pushing raid progression, all of that. And you'll also find Wowhead and Icy Veins written guides with a lot more advanced details that will explain the spec to you if you want to, grasp the full power of the lone wolf marksmanship hunter. Thank you everybody in True Shot for being awesome and giving all of us hunters all of the information to be better marksmanships all around. And thank you to the patrons for supporting the content. Love you guys. Make sure to check the link in the description for our Patreon if you want to support us and want to see more of this content in the future. Thank you for watching the video. See you next time.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.